As an emergency manager, a relief worker, or even just a neighbor or a future parent, there is a high likelihood that you'll come into contact with a child who has faced trauma. The encounter that you have with this trauma-faced child, especially if it's immediately after a traumatic event, could either affect the child's life in a positive or a negative way. We want to aim for having a positive effect on those who have experienced trauma, especially if that person is a child. Why is it so important to positively impact specifically children? It's because children's minds and processes work differently. A child's mind, just like any mind, is elastic. It should be able to bounce back from situations that life throws. Definitely some minds requiring more time than others to recover. But a child who faces trauma can be seriously impacted more than just an initial period of pain or anxiety. According to the National Center on Family Homelessness, as children grow and mature, they are faced with age-specific challenges they must master before moving along to the next stage. At each developmental stage, a child is faced with different tasks that build one upon another. When faced with traumatic stress, a child's energy is diverted, and they have less capacity to master developmental challenges. If a child is distracted for too long from their normal routine of learning, their growth could be inhibited, and their adulthood could potentially be affected. They might not learn the skills that they need to be able to live a normal life, or even if they learn the skills, it might take them a lot longer to learn them, and they could fall greatly behind other kids their age. So because the encounters that we have with children who have faced trauma are so critical, it's important to look at what to do if we come into contact with children right after a traumatic event. If you encounter a child immediately after a situation, there are some ways that you can help that child emotionally and also to help them stay calm. According to Hand-in-Hand Parenting, do your best not to inject your fears or anger into the situation.
I can't believe that just happened. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What are we going to do?
Another thing is that when talking to a child, you can use a couple of different listening tactics. You can do something called play listening and stay listening. What stay listening is if the event was recent and the site of the scene is safe, try to stay close or at the site of the situation. And what you do there is you pay attention to the feelings that the child lets out, so that way they can loosen their fears about what they had just experienced. The other tactic is play listening. And what play listening is when you listen and you subtly try to get a child to laugh, not making, big jokes or tickling them at all, but just saying something that, might make a child's mind have a little click, and they can do a little smile or a little giggle, because that can help them feel a lot better.
Hey, sweetie, I'm going to leave you here with this nice lady named Sandy. You know where I'm going? Where? I'm going home to play prank with my husband. Sometimes he takes naps, and while he's taking nap, I put whipped cream on his hand, and then he gets it all over his face. Okay.
Then according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, you can reassure the child that you'll do everything you can to keep them and their loved ones safe. You can protect them from what they don't need to know, and you can avoid discussing worst-case scenarios. Especially if you're the first one on the scene, or one of the first ones to encounter a child after a traumatic event, it is a critical time, and you must be able to know how to interact with that child. Addressing long-term trauma can also be very critical, and can be handled in ways that can help children regain normalcy and regular functions. If you encounter a child later on after a traumatic event, there are certain things you can do to help that child recover. According to the Child Mind Institute, you can get kids involved in activities. Distraction is really good for kids. You can do something simple like making a play date, just something to get them socially involved. Another thing is that you can have them draw pictures.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I was coloring.
Children do really good expressing their emotions through drawing. And this also creates a really great opportunity for you to talk with the child about what they're thinking and what they're feeling. Encourage kids to lend a hand.
Thanks for helping me today, Evangeline.
Welcome.
You're such a good helper.
Thank you.
This could be at home, doing chores, dishes, weeding, or it could be more community-based, looking like community service. The thing is, if you get your child involved in community service, you should do it with them because children really look up to adults and want to be just like them. Another thing is to create routine. It's important that children feel safe and they have a sense of consistency, and routine can create that atmosphere. Lastly, keep children busy. Daily activities that they regularly have might have been interrupted, so it's important to find other activities. Again, this could be playgroups, or it could be something like piano or dance lessons, just something that requires them to get out there and to have focus. It's really good if kids can get involved in something that requires a lot of focus. Those are just a few ways to help children recover, but they can make a big difference between staying lost in trauma and recovering. To be able to help a child who has ongoing distress from a traumatic situation, you have to be able to know what signs to recognize in that child. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, you can watch for these signs: emotional numbing or lack of feeling about the event.
Evangeline, are you okay?
Yeah.
Jumpiness,
Hey, Evangeline.
persistent fears about another disaster happening, difficulty sleeping, change in eating habits.
Hey, Evangeline. Do you want to eat some Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
No, thank you.
That's weird. You usually eat all the junk food.
Clinginess,
Tina, I'm gonna drop you off now. Don't, Mommy, don't leave me!
Sweetie, you have to go. No, come on.
Okay.
and lastly, re-experiencing the event through nightmares, recollections, or play. These are just a few signs to watch for, but they're some of the more obvious signs that you can look for in ongoing trauma. The last point I wanted to cover is this: know when to consider professional help. According to the Child Mind Institute, know when to seek help. Although anxiety and other issues may last for months, seek immediate help from your doctor or from a mental health professional if they do not abate or your child starts to hear voices, see things that are not there, becomes paranoid, experiences panic attacks, or has thoughts of wanting to harm himself or other people. I know a lot of the information that I've poured out into this video has been information that you could imagine a counselor telling you, or a commercial. But the fact of the matter is, as we've heard in class, we're not counselors. But what we are Christians, and we are disaster managers who want to understand a situation as best as we can so we can help people to the best of our abilities. And being a disaster manager, we have a high likelihood of running into kids who have traumatic stress, and we just want to be able to serve them to the best of our abilities.